I am so conflicted. So conflicted. On one hand, 5 plus 11 would be a dream come true. For the one, for me, who loved the 5 plus 7, who loved the playoffs last year, who's going to love the playoffs this year, 5 plus 11 is an absolute dream if it happens. The momentum is building towards a 5 plus 11. However, no doubt about it, it would be the biggest L here in PATC in the 3 years we've been on live, and it's not even close because I told you all, I reported to you all, it was a fait accompli that the Big Ten was going to get 4 and the SEC was going to get 4. I have no problem with taking the big L. I've got no problem with being wrong. But I do have a problem when I attach the punishment to this particular big L that looks like is coming up. And that is I've got to eat a cheeseburger live in front of the camera. Now, earlier today, I asked the question to the PATC family. Does eating one White Castle slider with cheese qualify as eating a cheeseburger live on PATC to satisfy debt owed on taking Big L in the CFP format? What say you, PATC family members? Not even close is leading. 44.9%. Yes, we give you grace. So where I can eat just one little slider and I pay off the debt. 17.6%. Only if you eat 2 of those sliders will I have it paid off. 37.5%. So no is in the lead. There are still 20 hours left to vote. 136 votes are in. I need a comeback. I need only if you eat 2 of them. I think I can survive eating 2 small sliders. Holy smokes. Holy smokes. But, however, it sounds like there is momentum behind the 5+11. Could it be? Will it be? Let me know in the chat room. Let me know with the phone calls later in the show. Brett Yormar comes out and says, earn it on the field. The rallying cry for those in the Big 12. The rallying cry for those in the ACC. Maybe the rallying cry among SEC coaches and others that want that 5+11. The Big 10 looks like they're all alone in the corner, wanting the 4-4-2-2-1-3. We have reported a long time ago at PATC, this is what the Big 10 wanted. This is what their media partners wanted. They thought they had it. They thought they were going to get it. They thought the SEC was going to play ball with them. These advisory meetings. We don't have a decision yet, do we? We don't really know yet, do we? Because remember, if the SEC decides on 5+11, and we go to a 5+11, there's no question about it. The Southeastern Conference is turning away a whole lot of money. However, this is what the coaches wanted. The athletic directors are not on board with 5+11 yet. It's interesting. We're going to go through this here. It's interesting. It's Greg Sankey they handed out this material to the reporters, all these certain metrics for the last 10 years. And it shows the Southeastern Conference at the top, all these metrics for the last 10 years. That should be no surprise to anybody. Sankey he keeps trying to relitigate last year's playoffs. I think he should avoid that. Because I think most of the people, especially outside of the Southeastern Conference, disagrees with them. Or it's like the argument still's not going to work because it could have gone any old way. It wasn't like there was a clear distinction between number 12, number 11 through number 17. BYU missed out by an eyelash. Indiana got in by an eyelash. South Carolina was out by an eyelash. It wasn't like there was this drop dead, yes, the committee blew it. I don't believe that at all. I know people disagree with me in the PATC family. But good Lord. So, Greg Sankey keeps talking about how the committee, for us to trust them, for us to go to a 5+11, we need to have a metric system. We need to have something different. We need to have that committee commit themselves and basically just throwing their whole lot on strength of record, I guess. Strength of schedule, I guess. Wow, I mean, and Florida State, I'm sorry. You want to relitigate something? Florida State was 13-0, and the SEC did not think they should have been in the playoffs, the top four. I mean, I don't want to get everybody upset with me again, but my Lord, as MBM said, it's just the goalpost. So I don't know if Greg Sankey, I'm very interested to hear what you guys got to say. I don't know if he's doing the Muhammad Ali rope-a-dope, where he's up against the ropes. It looks like he's going to go 5+11, but then at the very last minute, he's going to go, but we can't trust you, committee, because you are not inputting, you're not going to use this metric that we're giving you, that you should always use this. And then suddenly they're going to say, we cannot trust the committee. The athletic director of Florida is correct. The athletic director of Oklahoma is correct. We have to go with 4-4-2-2-1-3. I've got look, the momentum is building towards a 5+11. I can agree with that. No doubt about it. The momentum is building that I'm going to have to eat a cheeseburger live here at PATC. But there's still a part of me, the way Greg Sankey is talking about. I don't want to relitigate 2024 either. But come on, man. You can't sit here and make a clear-cut argument that Alabama should have been in the playoffs over Indiana, over SMU. You can't. Even over BYU. You can't. Should have they been in? You can make that argument, but not a clear-cut argument. The strength of schedule the strength of record cannot be to the point where you're putting in teams that lost 3 games, and they weren't all to the top of the SEC conference. Alabama lost to Vanderbilt, decent Vanderbilt team, not bad. I'm not gonna throw Vanderbilt under the bus like a whole bunch of people throw the middle of the Big Ten under the bus every single day, or the middle of any other conference. But you lose to Vanderbilt. But that Oklahoma loss being your third loss, what was the score? 24-6 or something? It was a miserable performance. Absolutely dreadful. As Ari Wasserman said, your strength of schedule got you into the conversation. But it doesn't get you an invitation just because you play in the SEC. Ole Miss, you lost to the worst SEC team in the country, in your conference. Ole Miss, who could not make a first down, a third and short, and a fourth and short by handing off to the running back, they had to give it to some big old lineman. That's how incompetent Ole Miss's short game offense was. They lost to Kentucky. 3 losses. Again, they were good. Jackson Dart was great. They were not flawless. They had weaknesses just like everybody else. And this is the mountain that Greg Sankey is talking about. He's standing on top of this mountain saying the committee was so wrong last year. He's working the refs. Just like he did before the committee screwed Florida State, he is working the referees. So, I say this because I want a 5+11, and I don't think the committee did a bad job last year. And if they had Alabama in the playoffs, I still don't think they would have done a bad job. I think there was a handful of teams that was close. Guess what? This year, there's going to be a handful of teams that is going to be really close. It is. And I completely understand why the Bama fans were upset, or Ole Miss fans, or maybe even the SEC fans. But it is now May 29th, and Sankey is using last year's decision by the committee as some sort of, oh my God, we can't trust anybody anymore. But the year before that, an undefeated Florida State was ruled basically by decree that they can't be in the playoffs because their quarterback got injured. Well, what happened to the Georgia Bulldogs last year? Gunnar Stockton played in the playoffs. He wasn't their starter. Beck got injured. Again, as MBM said earlier, it's the constant moving of the goalpost. You're not always going to get it. You're not always going to get that team in there that you think you deserve. And because it happens, you're going to blow it all up. Sankey and the SEC does not trust the committee. I don't trust Sankey. I do not trust Sankey. I do not trust Sankey at all. This is a moment in time where I think he's trying to shoehorn in a particular Bible. I better not use the word Bible. A particular algorithm, metrics. He's trying to shove it to the committee's hands and says, this is what you got to go by. And if I was the Big 12 and the ACC, even the Big 10, but especially the Big 12 and the ACC, I would say, whatever you're pushing off to the committee, how about this? We do not have polls taken for the first 3 to 4 weeks of the season. Because that when you have all these polls the first 3, 4, 5 weeks of the season, and you're using those numbers in your metrics to say this is how many times a team played top 20 and this is your strength of schedule. It's an artificial inflation. It's artificial. You're building up your metrics artificially by rankings that no one knows what the hell they're doing when they're doing these rankings, including PATC's rankings. But at least we're honest about it. Greg the Cooler has no idea what he's doing in the top 25. But neither does anybody else. And it favors the SEC every single year. We know this. It favors the Big Ten a little bit less, but it favors the Big Ten over the ACC and the Big 12. So, the Big 12, the ACC, the fat guy from Minnesota want 5 plus 11. Not every fan out there of a Big 12 school, not every fan of an ACC school wants 5 plus 11. You can see it all over X. You can see it all over the message boards. There is quite the division out there. But most of them, and it is Big 12's position. We're going to go over that here in the monologue. It is your Mark's position. They would like the 5 plus 11. So would the ACC. But I think we have to pause for a moment. As momentum seems to be heading towards a 5 plus 11, I think we got to pause and say to ourselves, do we really want it? Do we really want it? Do we trust? Do we trust that Sankey, SCC, ESPN are not going to make a mockery of this committee? They're not going to browbeat the committee? They browbeated Florida State. They browbeated Indiana. My goodness. My goodness. You saw the first quarter of Indiana Notre Dame playoff game. Wow. You saw what was said on X. We were doing a watch party. I had about, in the middle of the third quarter, first game of a playoffs that I loved, that I finally got the format that I wanted. Selfishly, I was going nuclear because of all this talk, blah, 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 blah. Indiana did not deserve to go to the playoffs because they were getting beat bad by a Notre Dame Fighting Irish team. And I told everybody then, and I told all the SEC people that were coming after me, I said, look, what's going to happen when an SEC team gets blown out in the first round? And then Tennessee happened. Indiana's only 2 losses all season long were to the 2 teams that made it to the national championship game. Did they beat anybody that was really good? No, not really. But they whooped up on everybody. And they would have never lost to a Kentucky. They would not have lost to an Oklahoma. They would not have lost to a Vanderbilt. It's hard to go 11-1 no matter where you are at. But even then, I believe that Indiana only made it in by an eyelash. I would agree with that. It was close. It was close. And to have that closeness, BYU was a half an eyelash out of it. Okay, let's go to, we got some memberships here. We're going to do a roll call. Then we're going to go through some reporting today on X. Then we're going to go through an article, Earn It on the Field article. And then Heather Dinich just published an article, Momentum seems to be moving in the 5+11 way. But I still got a lot to say here. I don't want to say look, I was pretty tough on Greg Sankey yesterday. I've been tough on Petiti for over a year. I've been tough on Sankey. There have been times I'm tough on Phillips. Your mark. Look, you guys know this. This is a national college football YouTube channel. I get everybody upset with me once a year. But I have said this so many times. I'll say it again before I go on another rant. The SEC is the most powerful, best football conference in the country. Your medium SEC football game is the most valuable to their TV partner than any other medium game in any conference. However, because of NIL, because everybody can pay players, there is a disbursement. There is a disbursement of talent that is going on that we haven't really seen before. As Ari Wasserman said today, we're not going to see the SEC rattle off 7, 8, 9 national championships in a row. We're not. And that's nothing against the SEC. It's just the landscape has completely changed. And last year, I heard Bruce Feldman. I've been hearing these reporters out there. Peter Burns. The middle of the SEC was not better than the middle of the Big Ten last year. They weren't. It was not a great SEC football season last year. They were not head and shoulders above everybody else. They just were not. Again, I'm going to sound like a Big Ten homer, but I look at what happened last year, and I was saying it during the season. I don't know. I mean, the middle of the Big Ten was pretty damn good. You had, I don't know, what place did Colorado, they finished 4th or 5th in the Big 12, and Nebraska waxed them. And Nebraska only still won 3 conference games again. There's a lot of examples. USC defeated LSU, but Minnesota and Maryland defeated USC. I don't see the middle of the SEC like being over the top of the Big Ten like they've had in years past. So I'm very wary of what Sankey's really trying to do here. I'm very nervous about him, about doing some sort of metrics, imprinting some sort of metrics into the system for the committee to look at that favors the SEC and makes it more difficult for the committee to make these tough calls that sometimes are going to go against the SEC, in my opinion. Let it rip. Let me know how wrong I am. Go after me, SEC fans. I'm not going to go after the SEC all night long. I'm going to be going after Petiti here in a little bit. He's dropped the ball. He's absolutely dropped the ball. Okay, here we go, guys. Expedition Great. Thank you so much for your gifted membership. Thank you so very much. Daryl Captain 63 was gifted a membership. Daryl, I'm sorry, that's Daryl. Daryl, when you get an opportunity, Please say thank you to Expedition Greg for his generosity. Both of you are knighted. Cloak and Dagger. Cloak and Dagger. You can both go to our library of episodes and watch all of them, even the early peak Cloak and Dagger episodes for members only. Go check it out. Thank you, Expedition Greg, for all your generosity. I do very much appreciate it. Bill G. Bill G gifted 5 memberships once again. Holy smokes. Bill G, unbelievable generosity. Thank you so very much. Shave the Banana, the Phenomenal Hebrew, DePaul, Michael Hart, and Free West. All 5 of you have been gifted a membership by Bill G. Please say thank you to Bill G. When you get the opportunity, you can all go to our library and watch all the episodes. And you all are officially knighted on May 29th. Cloak and Dagger. Larry Andrick, 18 months member. Larry Andrick, holy smokes, Larry. 18 months, that is a year and a half, according to my math. Gifted a membership to Nitwit, a Mountaineer to a Penn State Nittany Lion. Nitwit, when you get an opportunity, please say thank you to Larry Andrick for his generosity. And both of you are knighted. Cloak and Dagger. Cloak and Dagger. Okay, let's go. Stephen Vitt, get rid of the polls. Well, I mean, I like polls because I like to talk about the polls. I like to argue about the polls. But if these early polls are going to generate an inertia that favors a conference over other conferences, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, these early polls. If they're thrown in the metrics like they are, get rid of them. Get rid of the first 3, 4, 5 weeks of the polls. Get rid of them. Terror on the High Seas is in the house, as he reminds us. The Pirates 26, the Wolfpack 21. Here comes the Nittany Lions. Nitwit is in the house. Integrity matters. Should be 11 plus 5. 11 conference champs plus 5 at large. I don't care if you're the Sun Belt. If you win your conference, you deserve a shot at the D1 National Championship tourney. Wow, integrity matters comes out. Kay Nerwin is in the house. Thank you, Kay. Yes, smash that like button. Go Rams is here. Go Rams. You have unequal conference games. SEC with 8. Big Ten playing with 9. Finally, some SEC love. Don Scruggs, Georgia Bulldogs, is in the house. I don't remember that, Daniel Gorby. I do not remember that at all. North Carolina State prediction, ACC champs in 2024. Daniel Gorby, I don't think I could ever be that wrong. I don't believe I could ever be that incorrect. I am too much of a genius, a college football idiot savant. Emphasis on the idiot for me to ever say that. Holy smokes. It doesn't matter what the format is this year. Penn State will dominate. Eric Ruby is in the house. He's warming up to 5 plus 11. He's warming up to 5 plus 11. Who else is here? Thank you all for joining us on a Thursday. We're starting a little bit later tonight. I've been busy. I could not start this show earlier, but I wanted to do a show. I wanted to give everybody an opportunity to tell me to lay off the Southeastern Conference, or to tell me quit agreeing with the Big 12, or to tell me to quit making fun of Tony Petitti. Whatever you got to yell at me about, do it tonight. Do it tonight in the chat room or with your phone call. Stormy Cyclone is in the house. Stormy, don't. I was just starting to smile here, and now you got me in a very bad mood. Still Austin is here. John Dry, Daniel Gygax is in the house. Outlaw Skis is here. G. Brew is here. Charles Chamberlain is in the house. Jason Spangler is here. Jose. Fight On Jose is in the house. Cranky Tiger. Hello, PATC cult members. The Patrick Baylor Bear is here. Free West saying thank you to Bill G. James Davis is in the house. Curtis is here. MH Ortho 12 has come back. Mayor McCheese. C. John. Elliot Howard. Justin Lucas. Any word on the Pac-12? No. The last thing we talked about the Pac-12 was they got a June 1st deadline if they want to make this as inexpensive as possible. They're in mediation. But we talked about an article in the San Diego Tribune that was written on May 25th that was talking about inside the grant of rights in the Mountain West. There is this language in there in which if a Mountain West university if the Mountain West team program university gets poached by a Power 4 conference, there is no exit fee. There is no penalty at all. And that was the Mountain West, one of the many things they did, one of the many inducements to make sure that they could keep UNLV. But according to Mark Ziegler, the writer at San Diego Tribune, according to his sources, UNLV is optimistic that the Big 12 in the years ahead are going to be interested in UNLV and possibly inviting them into the Power Conference. So that was interesting. I'm not sure how much I'm buying that. I'm really not buying that much at all, except we have this we'll talk about it later, but this private capital, private equity storyline is heating up, and it is truly the great unknown. The greatest of all the greatest unknown on the impact of these conferences, the structure, the success, and also what they plan to do in the future. And when it comes to realignment or possible expansion, if private equity, private capital is coming in, that could affect on who and when and what target you pursue. And maybe UNLV could be part of that. I do not know, but that's a whole nother storyline. Things are really heating up. Mike W. is in the house. Daryl MVP 24. John Dry is here. Jeff Morgan is here. Ryan Matson. Gold Black 45. Gold Black 45 is in the house. That's a risk. I mean, if it was 5 plus 11 last year, Iowa State would not have been the second. Big 12 would only had one team in there. I don't know, guys. It's there's a lot of different angles to this. Lots of different angles. Lots. Didn't Illinois beat South Carolina? Yes, they did. And Minnesota defeated Illinois. Illinois was, Minnesota, my beloved Golden Gophers, were probably the best, worst team in the country last year, if that makes any sense. Okay, who else is here? Come on now. Opie. Opie's in the house. Good point, Opie. Hummus Hero is here. Sean, hit the like button. Hit that like button. Brandon is in here. Thanks for coming on in, Brandon. I have no idea, Brandon. I have no idea. But I will say this. Let me say this before we go on. I thank you guys so much for the super chats. I'm going to get to them as quick as I can. But I've had discussions, and first of all, I just want to point out a couple things. One is these national football reporters, sometimes we agree, sometimes I agree with them, sometimes I disagree with them. You guys agree with them, disagree with them. You disagree with me, I agree with you. We're all, we all have our own own opinions. Some of us get information from somewhere that we trust, and other people don't have that information. And sometimes, we all are walking in our own shoes, right? But a guy like Ross Dellinger, when he writes an article, and it's not just Ross Dellinger, it's these other reporters, they don't just write the article and hit the send button. It's not how it's done. This I know. It's not done that way. They write the article. They go through that article. They choose their words carefully. Sometimes they have to change the words as they go through the editor. Yes, they have editors. I know this to be true. So when I read these articles, I may have my own opinion that may be different for whatever reason. My bias, I'm an idiot, or I might have heard something and I trust this other thing, whatever it is. I might read something and say, that doesn't seem right to me, but I trust the fact when a Ross Dellinger writes it, whether Heather Dinich writes it, where Pete Thamel writes it, where Brett McMurphy writes it, they've gone through it, they've checked it, they're okay with it, and their editor has looked at it, and they have chosen their words carefully. Unlike me, when I'm just talking, I can barely talk. As you all know, I'm in front of a mic. Sometimes I wish I would not have said it in that manner. But when they write these articles and release it, those words are chosen carefully. So having said that, the way that Ross Dellinger wrote that whole article, but in particular, a couple of them. One is the one that Brandon is alluding to about several ACC schools, several Big 12 schools met, clandestine, secret call with Smash Capital. The commissioners weren't there. He wrote that in a certain way. Now, you can go and there's a lot of different other ways he could have written that. But he wrote it in a certain way, and it really, and he's going to circle back to that. If you notice Ross Dellinger, he'll when the subject comes up, he'll go back and say, I wrote about this 2 months ago, and he'll link his old article to the article that he just released, or his post that he just released. He's done that today. So he's choosing his words carefully. I don't know the answer to that, Brandon, but I think it's an important story, however it goes. And the other part of that story, there's a lot of parts of that story, but the other part of this story that I've been going around and around with a few people on X is when Ross Dellinger talked about the 4 private equity. He didn't say private capital. He didn't say the number 5. He did not say the number 3. He did not say the number 2. Ross Dellinger said the 4 private equity firms jockeying to be able to buy, not buy, to be able to purchase a percentage of the Big Ten Conference. Not invest in, not whatever other words you want to use. He used the word purchase, a percentage. So, and he's going to be circling back to that part of the story. And one other thing, I know I'm going off on all different tangents. I apologize, but I've had people on X tell me, Greg, you shouldn't even be speculating about this. You should not even be talking about this because public universities cannot sell equity. They can't deal with a private equity firm and say, here's 10% of our university and here you go. Greg, you shouldn't even be talking about this. Number one, I am going to talk about it. I am going to talk about it because Ross Dellinger's talking about it and other people. I mean, there's a reason why in 2024 I said 25 was going to be the invasion of private equity, private capital. That's the number one reason. Number two reason, the second reason that has been told to me and there's been evidence brought to me by really good, smart people who are people who are running other college football YouTube channels that you know and love. I won't say the name because I wasn't given the, but whatever. It has been shown to me that there is this belief out there that sure, a public university can't deal with private equity, but a conference can. At a conference level, it will mitigate all that issue of a university public because these conferences, if you look deep enough, there is this thing called I'm not going to say it. I don't want to get too deep into it. But anyways, Front Office Sports says Yormark has decided against private capital. Give me a link on that. Give me a link. He was just talking about private equity March 28th. Somebody give me a link. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Man, we've got a lot to get to. Holy smokes. Wow. Okay, here we go. Okay. I will get to that story in a moment. Man, I got a lot to get to. So let's go through the roll call here. We are going to get to that front office sports. Everybody else that I did not get to, thank you so very much. Appreciate it so very much. Daniel Gorby, no cheese jokes tonight, so Greg doesn't lose any more viewers. Come back, Ryan Willie. Yeah, hopefully Ryan Willie comes back. The Evil Badger, very important family member. Very important family member. Please come back, Ryan Willie. Preston from Greensboro, curious how many times the ACC plus the Big 12 won't get two teams in the 5-11, especially once the P2 starts getting 50 million plus more yearly. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's a risk either way, right? It's a risk either way. There is advantages and disadvantages to both 5-11 and 4-4-2-2-1-3. As a fan, I want the 5+11. As the commissioner, if I'm the Big 12 commissioner, man, I don't know. It's a tough thing, but Big 12's going 5+11, and that is what they're supporting. Thank you so much, Preston from Greensboro, Daniel Gorby. Thank you guys so much for your generosity, for your super chat. I so much appreciate it. Curtis is in the house. I have family who are still major boosters at an SEC school. I was told very clearly that until NIL came out, the SEC bought the best players. Well, they got competition now, right? Not just from the Big Ten, but they're going to be good players that are going to go to the ACC and Big 12 schools because they can get paid. Maybe it's important they stay close to home, or maybe it's important that they go to a certain university for a special school, whatever it is. A big-time player now has more opportunities. And by the way, it's not just that. A star quarterback. Why should a star quarterback, if he thinks he can start pretty much anywhere else, why would he be a backup quarterback for a year? Or if you're a third stringer, a 4-star third stringer at a big-time SEC school or a Big Ten school, and you can be a starter at a mid-level Big Ten, mid-level SEC, mid-level Big 12, ACC, you're going to go now. Before, you wouldn't go. Before, you could not even transfer until you were a grad transfer. Now there are more opportunities for that big-time talent to be more dispersed across the college football landscape. Thank you, Curtis, so much for your super chat. Appreciate it. Nitwit, automatic bids for the top 2 teams in each Power 4 conference. Bids for the top 2 from the G6 conferences, and at large for the 3 rest of the 16 teams. Yeah, well, that is quite democratic of you, Nitwit. I think we both know that's not going to happen, but I think that would be quite democratic. But it ain't going to happen. Nitwit, thank you so much for the super chat. I do appreciate your incredible generosity. Nitwit, Curtis, Preston from Greensboro, Daniel Gorby, Larry Andrick, Bill G, Expedition Greg. Thank you guys so much for starting it off so good early on our show. Let's go to the breaking news here. Let's go to the breaking news. Breaking news, breaking news, breaking news. Brett Yormark, Big 12, puts private equity and naming rights on pause. Big 12 discussed plenty of changes to college sports at its spring meetings, but 2 major revenue driving ideas the conference once considered appear to be dead. Now, is it dead Or is it on pause? It sounds like the naming rights is on pause and the other is dead. The Big 12 will wrap up its spring meetings on Friday after a busy week of coaches, athletic directors, and university presidents discussing changes around the college football playoff, March Madness expansion, and the House versus NCAA settlement. The Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark caught up with Front Office Sports on Thursday evening to analyze the new landscape of college sports, including some shifts in strategy for its conference. Where does the Big 12 stand on selling a stake of the conference to private equity? We've explored all that. We did it probably for the better part of the year. Wow. We're not ready to go in that direction, but we know what the options are out there. We've been educated at the highest levels. Okay? Okay, so far is we're not ready yet. We're not ready. We're not ready. Why aren't you ready to take that step? The board's not ready right now. And there's probably lots of reasons for that. There are so many different things going on right now. But I think we're well informed. We know what's going on in that world. We hired a bank to consult and give us direction. Show us what the optionality is out there. We're just not ready to jump in just yet. Well, it doesn't sound like that's dead. It sounds like the timing ain't right. And we've talked about it all year. While we think private equity's coming in, holy smokes, we don't even have a House NCAA settlement confirmed yet. That hasn't even been approved yet. And we've got the college football playoffs. We've got, and you've got what happened in the ACC. Was there good value available if you were ready to take that step? There's different ways to look at it. We were exploring a potential partnership that brings strategic expertise to grow the business of the Big 12, while also having someone that could be a capital resource. So the model we're looking for and exploring was someone bespoke, custom tailored to the needs of the conference, and we're just not ready yet. It's been a great exercise, and we'll see what happens in the future. Wow. Boy, I want to know what you guys think about this. Now, remember, we were told a couple weeks ago, we reported to you that the Big 12 had set up a benchmark, and it was going to be no together or yes together. There was not going to be any splintering. They knew what they wanted. They knew inside the Big 12 what everybody would be okay with, what they wanted together as a vision. So either they haven't found that yet, or they're just not ready to go, even if they have found something that pleases them because of everything that is going on. It doesn't sound like it's dead. It doesn't sound like it's dead. It sounds like it's truly on pause. Is selling naming rights to the Big 12 no longer being explored? I don't know if it's on the table or off the table, because we've created a lot of equity behind Big 12. We have put a lot behind it. I think our narrative and profile is very different today than it's ever been, especially on the heels of realignment. In other words, our realignment, our ability to get an Arizona State, a Utah, a Colorado, we are in a better position now than we were before. The Big 12 brand is more valuable now than it was before. We're 16 strong now. coast to coast. I think there are ways that we can monetize our business without necessarily giving up our name. So, not that it's off the table, but I would say it's probably on pause right now because we are finding other ways to grow the commercial side of the business without necessarily having to give up the equity that we are building. So there it is. Fascinating. Interesting. The Big 12 is on pause on private equity, pause on the naming rights of the Big 12 Conference. My guess, Lorenzo Haynes, my guess is they will re-engage with private equity after the House settlement is final. Could be. It sounds like they've got the information they need. They've got probably some offers. No doubt they've got offers because it's been reported. We shall see. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Okay, now let's go to what we were going to talk about at the beginning of the show here. We've got a lot to get to here. A lot of different stories. Brett McMurphy, the Big 12 opening 3 weeks on TNT and HBO Max. August 30th, Hawaii at Arizona, TNT and HBO Max. September 6th, Kent State at Texas Tech. September 13, could it be the revenge game for Texas State Bobcats? Texas State at Arizona State, 10:30 Eastern Time. 3 games on TNT and HBO Max right out of the gates. Plus, they're going to have some playoff games. Now, I've got Max on my phone. I love it. I love having Max on my phone, being mobile. So if I'm out late on Saturday night, August 30th, 9:30 at night, I'm picking up the wife somewhere after I did a watch party all during Saturday, I'll turn on that Hawaii-Arizona game as I'm driving down Highway 94, picking up the Little General. Hawaii at Arizona. So, it will work for me. Will it work for you? I do not know. I do not know. Mike Leach, Brett McMurphy, great news for Mike Leach fans. College Football Hall of Fame will lower the win percentage in 2027 from 60 to 59.5%. Which will make the former Mississippi State, Texas Tech, Washington State head coach eligible to join the Hall. Now, I came on here after he passed away and I said, college football, you got to show grace to Mike Leach. And they did it. The College Football Hall of Fame is going to lower it down to 59.5%. He's at 59.6%. My goodness. It's happened. It's going to happen officially here soon. Big noon kickoffs. First 3 stops. We had some scheduling news coming on in. Texas at Ohio State. Iowa going down to Ames, Iowa. Iowa State, September 6th. And Oregon goes to Evanston, Illinois. Oregon, Northwestern. CBS first 4 games. Penn State, Nevada. Oklahoma State Cowboys against Oregon. USC, Purdue, Michigan, and Nebraska. Again, we're going to get into this in a little bit. Brett McMurphy. Brett Yormark reiterates the Big 12 wants 5 auto qualifiers and 11 at-large spots for 26 playoffs. wants an end to considering multiple automatic qualifiers. One playoff proposal gives the Big Ten and SEC 4 automatic qualifiers. Your mark, I'm about fairness. There's a lot of conversations about AQs. We want to earn it on the field. I think 5 plus 11 format does that. It's fair. It's what our fans want. They don't want an invitational. They want a true playoff system, and we have that right now. We need to put these multiple AQs and take it out of the conversation and focus what's right with college football. I think 5 plus 11 does that, and that's our preference. Brandon Marcello, SEC presidents and chancellors, were presented with several CFP models today. Same presentation for coaches and athletic directors. And I'm told Greg Sankey emphasized the need for collaboration with other conferences. One president put it to me, they can't bulldog a format on others. Looks like, it sounds like, it smells like, it tastes like the SEC might be acquiescing to the Big 12 and the ACC. Holy smokes. Ross Dellinger. Greg Sankey is laying the groundwork for a serious change to the College Football Playoff Selection Committee's criteria, describing his conference as not like any other, and its schedule stands alone. I do think there's a need for change. How do you explain some of the decisions made? Again, his conference is not like that, not like any other, and its schedule stands alone. Woo! I'm telling you, he is, Sankey is going all out. I think he wants to get this criteria in this committee. It almost like he wants to have a computer in there and to have this data go in there and this algorithm created by SEC produce who should be the at-large teams. And I got a feeling that he may never be satisfied. They're doing the rope-a-dope, and then they're going to go back to the 4-4-2-2-1-3, where the SEC and the Big Ten are going to make more money. And his excuse is, I can't trust the committee. They won't listen to me. Something to that effect. That is in the back of my mind. Let me know how crazy I am for thinking of that. Earn it. Why the Big 12 is touting a 5 plus 11 college football playoff expansion model to combat the Big Ten's auto bid push. Chris Vanini. Finally, the college football leaders are having their playoff debate in public, at least in the state of Florida this week. Up in Destin, Florida, the SEC appears to be on its way to adjourning spring meetings on Thursday without a clear consensus on the right college football playoff format for 26 and beyond. The Big Ten backed model that gives 4 auto bids to their 2 leagues and fewer to everyone else has some SEC support, but also some concerns. It's a format that would be more financially lucrative for the top 2 conferences, but it has drawn public backlash. Down to Orlando, the Big 12 brought a more united front to spring meetings with an easier public message: fairness. Should the playoff field expand to 16 teams, as widely expected, the Big 12 and the ACC prefer a 5 plus 11 model that simply expands the current college football playoff with auto bids for the 5 highest-ranked conference champions and 11 at-large bids. The Big 12 commissioner, the ACC commissioner, made the pitch in person to the SEC commissioner and the Big Ten commissioner at a recent meeting in Charlotte, one of several among the Power 4 leaders. Hold on 1 second. Will it convince the SEC and the Big Ten, which hold majority power over the CFP format, started in 2026, to move away from uneven auto bids? Now, did you hear how that is written? The SEC and the Big Ten holds majority power, but they don't have all the votes. I think people are confused on that. If the SEC and the Big Ten agree, they can push anything through. But what if they don't agree? What if they don't agree? I don't think the 4-4-2-2 is fair, Yormark told The Athletic on Wednesday. I just don't think that model speaks to who we are as a conference and what we mean to college football. The Big Ten proposed 4-4-2-2 auto bid heavy model with 1 bid for the top-ranked non-power forward conference champion and 3 at-large bids to round out the 16 spots would give the Big 12 and ACC bids they might not always get otherwise. That's the sell. But it would codify. It would codify second-class status for the Big 12 and the ACC in Orlando this week. Yormark and several Big 12 athletic directors told The Athletic the risk of earning a single bid for themselves in a 5+11 model is worth keeping an open field. It's worth keeping an open field. What do you guys think on that? The Big 12, the ACC, maybe it will cost both of them or one of them in the year 2026 a playoff spot. But having a 5+11 makes sure that the second-class citizen, so to speak, is not codified. Again, as a football fan, I want that 5+11, but I can completely understand why it's a tough decision. I completely understand why the Big Ten wants the 4-4-2-2-1-3. I completely understand why the SEC athletic directors agree with the Big Ten, because they're going to be losing out on a lot of money if it goes 5+11. And if they lose out a lot of money on that, what are they going to do next? What are they going to do next? Let's just go 5+11. Steve Vitt. The momentum is building that way, it looks like. It looks like. Let the chips fall as they will. Do it on the field. Ute RFR Mac. Yes, it looks like the cheeseburger. It could be happening. It could be happening. It could definitely be happening. I was not fooling around when I thought it was when we were told that it was a fait accompli. That there was no way that the SEC and the Big Ten were finding alignment on this issue. All this new revenue streams coming their way, and it looks like they could be having to do the 5+11. But I don't trust Sankey. There could be a rope-a-dope thing going on here, where basically his message is, I'll do 5+11. My coaches want 5+11. I think we'll get more spots with 5+11. We should get more spots with 5+11. But the committee cannot tell me what their criteria is. The committee is not telling us in the SEC what their criteria is when deciding the at-large spots. So therefore, I have to act in the best interest of my institutions, and therefore we're going 4-4-2-2-1-3. That is circling in the back of my mind. Absolutely. Absolutely. Phone lines are open. 763-260-1333. Phone lines are open. 763-260-1333. Swiss cheese and grilled mushrooms. If you guys let me, you guys are going to decide what type of cheese I got to put on there. VC Knoll from Garnet and Old. Greg, your gut instincts are spot on. The SEC graphics are propaganda at its highest. I mean,
from
Rick?
Rick, can you hold on for a moment?
You bet.
I mean, again, Florida State goes 13-0. 13-0. And the rule was, this thing was brought up by ESPN that, you know, if your quarterback is hurt, they got to take that into consideration. They got to take that into consideration. Boy, they took it into consideration, and the 13-0 Florida State did not make the playoffs. There is no way on God's green earth. There is no way on God's green earth does a 13-0 Buckeyes, 13-0 Wolverines, a 13-0 Georgia Bulldogs, a 13-0 Alabama. There's no way that a 13-0 any of those programs are going to be left out of the playoffs. I don't care if their quarterback and their two left tackles got injured in a bus accident trying to pick up their favorite fast food Chick-fil-A. There's no way that any injury anywhere is taking out a Big Ten or an SEC team. I don't even think it would have happened in Indiana last year. I don't think it would have happened to Penn State last year. I don't think it would have happened to Tennessee last year. If Nico, I'm leaving on a jet plane, would have torn his fingernail on his throwing hand and could not play, Tennessee still would have gotten into the playoffs. So, Sankey, my man, and I don't trust Petit either, although, I mean, it's okay to talk. You're a commissioner. It's okay to talk in public. I make a fool of myself every single day on this program. It's okay as a commissioner to talk in public. Anyways, Rick, thank you for your patience. The floor is yours.
Well, thanks for taking the call, Greatness. I appreciate that. I told you yesterday I thought it was a mutt and Jeff. I think Sankey's just playing a game. He'll play it. May play it for a few months until things quiet down. You know, there's a quiet time to make the announcement because they have until December.
Supposedly, yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's the end of the line. They're not going to wait that long, but you know what I'm saying. This is the top story in college football. He wants it to be on the down low when he makes his announcement on a Friday, late Friday afternoon. No, I was calling, and you were, I think you're right to be skeptical. And also, you hit the nail on the head with that 5-letter word, money. How much money, more money, can the SEC make by having the 9th game?
What was that?
How much more money can the SEC make by having a 9-game schedule?
$5 million per team. $80 million overall.
5 million per team.
Yep.
And does that factor in that it will also be a TV rating boom because it's replacing the Alabama versus Alabama
Yep. Yeah, no, it
A&M
doesn't.
game?
Yeah, no, I get it. It'd be more beneficial to the media partner to do it.
Yep.
Plus,
Yep.
you got the crossover Big Ten game that that ain't
That's
gonna
where
happen.
that's where I'm going to next.
Yep.
Now that we've got the 9 game and the 5 million per team, now let's move on to the Big Ten crossover game. And let's just say hypothetically, we do it Rick's way. And it's week 3 of the season. And every single SEC team plays a Big Ten team -2 because 2 are going to have to sit out. And every year they'll rotate. The one that sat out will get to play. But so it'll be 16 games, 8 at home, 8 away. So the SEC will get 8 home games against a Big Ten team, and the Big Ten will get 8 home games against an SEC team. How much extra money is that going to make for the SEC, the Big Ten, and the TV networks? How many millions?
I don't know, but
compared to playing, instead of Minnesota playing the Delaware Blue Hens, they're going to the swamp. And the following year, the Lane train is coming to Minneapolis. See where I'm going?
Yep.
Millions and millions and millions of dollars for the SEC, the Big Ten, and the networks. Now you add in the play-in games.
Yep.
And all of that money goes to the conference.
Yep.
And this is brand new money.
Yep.
This isn't different money being pulled from a different pot. It's brand new money coming into the networks. And not just one network. Because you can negotiate with a bunch of networks. So my point being, and I'll hang up, there's too much money to not go 4-4-2-2-3-1 or 1-3. Thanks for taking the call.
You got it. Appreciate it. Beautiful. Greg I like, but he's been wrong about Notre Dame every step of the way. I have taken, unlike other people, Ryan, hold on.
Call from
Tristan 5.
Tristan, can you hold on for a second?
Yes.
I appreciate it. Yes, Ryan, I was wrong about Notre Dame. I did not think, well, I was wrong about Clemson as well. I did not think they would sign, I did not think that Clemson would sign that scheduling agreement with Notre Dame and keep that agreement, even if Clemson would go and join a different conference. But obviously those scheduling arrangements can easily change. I still believe that the walls are closing in on Notre Dame. I still believe that. As these conferences are getting more and more powerful. They're going to have more and more different revenue streams. And I think it's going to get more. Notre Dame has already given up some of its independence. 20 years ago, it did not have a scheduling agreement. They could schedule all their games to whoever they want. But it keeps tightening up on them. So, but yes, you are correct. But I've also taken the L on that, Ryan. I've openly taken the L on this show when it comes to Notre Dame. No question about it. Tristan, the floor is yours.
Hey, Greg. Thanks for taking my call. I wanted to comment on this story about Sankey. You're saying you don't trust Sankey, and I'm in agreement with you. I think this is just ridiculous. Tweaking the formula or trying to control the formula that the committee would use. Why, if you're going to have a formula, why do you need a committee? That's the first question.
Yep.
How about if they want a formula, just put the formula into a computer program and publish it so the whole world knows what it is ahead of time, right? I mean, I hate the secrecy. This is, now you and I have a difference of opinion, which is fine. This is why I hate committees and polls, because of this kind of garbage and this kind of manipulation. I utterly despise all of that. I want the playoff access to be open to everyone as much as possible. But at the same time, I do want AQs, and I would limit, if it were up to me, and I know we can't make this happen because they wield too much power, but I would limit the SEC and the Big Ten. I would want more playoff access for the other conferences. Mm-hmm. And but realistically, that can't happen just because they wield too much power and they're going to get as much as they can for themselves. But I just wanted to make that comment. This is the reason I'm in favor of the AQs, because what happened to Florida State 2 seasons ago was a total ripoff. I don't like seeing things like that happen. And I think AQ is the only thing that can get rid of that kind of bias. I just don't trust, you're saying you don't trust Sankey, and I don't disagree with you, but I don't trust committees, and I don't trust polls. And I think the NFL has the closest thing to the best model, which is you play a schedule, and then the teams with the best records get in, period. And, as long as we have conferences, you can't do that, right? Because not everyone plays each other, and there is this thing about strength of schedule. But if you limit it to AQs, then you can objectively say, okay, well, the top 4 SEC teams get in, and we can objectively define who those are. And the same thing for the Big Ten. And, whatever the other conferences AQs are, if it's 2 for the Big 12 and 2 for the ACC, they can objectively define what those top 2 are, and they don't have to rely on polls or committees. And I'm looking forward to the day when they get rid of polls and committees. That's what I want.
What about this, the NCAA hockey, they have the pairwise, which is an algorithm. And every week, where you stand. If you're one of the top 16 in the pairwise, you're going to go to the tournament. If you point, like one year the Minnesota Golden Gophers finished 17 in the pairwise, and they were like 0.0013% in back of Minnesota Duluth. That was 16. Minnesota Duluth went on to win the national championship that year when they were 16th, and they were just ahead of the Gophers. But a pairwise, so everybody knows, every week where they stand, and they even know what they need to do in the final week, like in the conference tournament or whatever they need. They know what they need to do to get above, to get in there, to move up in those rankings, to get a better seed in the tournament. What about a computer algorithm that everybody decides on? And everybody's updated every single week. What do you think of that idea?
If the viewing public, as well as the schools themselves, are all aware of what the algorithm is ahead of time,
mm-hmm. Yep.
and like you said, everyone would have to agree to it, right? So that's part of the deal. If it's known ahead of time and there's no secrecy built around it, I'm 100% in favor of it. I think that would be great because at least you're following some kind of a structure that everyone agreed to, and it's objectively fair. If you're using a formula where everyone knows where they stand and they know what they got to accomplish to get in, then that's pretty close to being fair. So if you could pull that off, I would be in favor of it.
Yeah.
Right. But it's the I remember, Greg, I mean, look, I remember when they had the BCS thing. And let me say this too. As college football has come closer to a playoff system and moved in that direction, I've become more interested in it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when I was growing up, and you and I are about the same age, Greg, and as I was growing up, I never thought that voting for a national champion was the right way to go. I always wanted a playoff system of some kind. I thought about, when you think of like voting for a champion, that's like ice skating and synchronized swimming. Yeah, I don't want that for college football. So as they've moved into a more or closer to a true playoff system, I've gained interest in college football. And I want it to continue on that path so that it's objective. Look, the SEC is not dominating like they used to, and I think it's because of the NIL money being evened out. And I think and what we have today is how it's going to be going forward. The Big Ten is going to be right there with them, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And, and I think great for the Big Ten. I'm all in favor of that. It's terrific that they're doing so well. And, the SEC will have some years where they win national titles. It's not going to be all of one or the other. It's going to go back and forth. But, it needs to be fair. It needs to be objective. No voting, oh, man, like some guy that used to be an AD for a school is on a committee. I mean, you can't tell me that does not influence how he votes. It absolutely does.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see how it couldn't. And, so that's all I wanted to throw in was, the complaints you're registering about Sankey's, latest, I don't know even what you'd call it, idea or whatever. I agree with your objections to it, and that's the reason I want AQs. I want to dispense with all this nonsense about rigging the system against certain conferences, and I hate all that.
Yeah.
I really do. So, and one other quick thought, I think that the part of the problem for the SEC in terms of expanding to 9 games, Greg, I think they really don't want to do it until they have some expansion. I think there's probably a perception within the conference they need to soften it up a little bit. Like if you can bring in, just for example, if you brought in a North Carolina and a Virginia, that would help to soften up the schedule a little bit, and it would feel a little bit safer to go to 9 games at that point. And I think that they won't say it, but I think that's part of the reason that they're not wanting to do that immediately. So
that could be, but yeah, that could be. Now the athletic directors, it sounds like, want to go to 9 games because the extra money, and I mean these athletic directors are looking at these budgets every day, right? And they're kissing away, $15-20 million more a year per team if you don't get the 9 game, if you don't get the crossover, you don't get the playing games.
Yeah,
you're kissing away a lot of money.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too is that, Greg, the AQs provide the extra revenue of the play-in games.
Yep.
That each, the Big Ten and the SEC,
Yep.
I'm sure would kind of mirror each other in that.
Yep.
And that's going to be a big bundle of money. That's why I think they want the AQs, in my opinion. Those play-in games will be, because they're de facto playoff games.
Yep.
And they own all of it. So if Alabama is playing Arkansas to get into a playoff spot, that's a playoff game, and the conference gets the whole thing. Same thing for Ohio State if they're playing Michigan State. I cannot see either of those conferences turning that down. I think that's really what they're after.
I didn't think they were going to turn it down either. That's why I made the cheeseburger. That's why I said if it doesn't happen, I'll eat a cheeseburger live. We'll see. It's still up in the air.
Hey, listen, Greg, if you have to eat a cheeseburger live, use pepper jack. That's my recommendation.
Got it.
All right. I will talk to you later. You have a good one.
Got it. Thank you, Tristan. Great call.
All right, thanks. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Great call. Great call. Phone lines are open. 763-260-1333. 763-260-1333. You guys are going back on Notre Dame. Hold on here.
Call from.
Okay, I had to hang up on that one. Just got all static. You guys are going back and forth on Notre Dame. Look, Notre Dame ain't going nowhere unless, first of all, the ACC is going to have to they're going to have to lose their top brands because Notre Dame has what they need to survive the state independence. If they lose their top brands, well, it's going to be more difficult. I happen to think the ACC is going to lose their top brands at some point. That was my whole Notre Dame things.
Call from.
Ryan Thomas.
Ryan Thomas, the floor is yours. Give it a rip.
Well, first of all, great call, Tristan. That was a really good call by Tristan. I appreciate everything he said. He's articulated a lot of things that I've thought about. I know people don't want AQs, but, I don't trust those committees, and I certainly don't trust having active ADs chairing committees like that.
Yeah.
But, I wonder if Greg Sankey is doing this. I wonder if the SEC is worried about the perception of if both the Big Ten and the SEC get the same amount of qualifiers and are playing, a conference or a scheduling agreement. I wonder if Sankey's worried that the perception that the SEC has will be basically unveiled or basically unmasked, and if he's worried about the Big Ten being seen as a peer or equal and surpassing them. I wonder if there's some fear in the SEC coaches and Sankey about that. Because, with all the money that's involved, I'm with you, Greg. I don't understand how they could turn it down, but the only way is either Sankey's so arrogant that he thinks the SEC deserves, 15 of the all 16 bids, or, I don't know. It's an interesting thing to see what's going on. Tristan stole my thunder, but he just, really, I completely agree with him on having the computer algorithm get rid of it. Honestly, the best solution, I agree. 5+11 with the computer algorithm kind of doing what it does with NCAA hockey, that would be awesome. That would be great. That would be wonderful. But, at the same time, the current system, as long as you have crack committees that you don't know what they're thinking, that there's bias that's being played in there and narratives being pushed and politicking going on, I just don't think it's going to, I don't think it's going to rig the system no matter what. So it's sort of take what you can get or have them screw you more. So I understand the positions of both sides of the argument here, but until they get rid of that committee, Greg, I know people don't like it. I know my fellow Big 12 friends don't like it, but I have to come down on the side of the AQs as long as we have those crappy committees.
Ryan,
Go ahead. I'll go if I'm breaking up.
No, don't go. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, no, I've got an idea, and I think it's absolutely brilliant, and it could have only come out of this fat guy from Minnesota's brain. Okay, listen to this. This is the Henry Clay compromise. Okay. Okay. Now listen. Okay. Now don't jump down my throat here when I start, because just relax and let me finish before you say, Greg, you're a moron. Okay, then you can say, Greg, you're a moron after I say this. Okay, after I complete it. You start out. You've got it 4-4, 2-2, 1-1. Now listen now. Hold on. I know what you're going to say. Notre Dame ain't going to like that. Blah, 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 blah. Just hold on here. Hold on. 4-4, 2-2, 1-1. 4 Big Ten, 4 SEC. Now I don't like the I'm just trying to be Henry Clay, everybody. 4 Big Ten, 4 SEC, 2 Big 12, 2 ACC, 1 G6, and if Notre Dame is in the top 14 rankings, they get that at-large bid. If not, whoever the highest at-large of the whoever the highest is gets the Notre Dame spot. They're 14. Okay, now you got your 14. Now you got your 14, right?
Yep.
But, how do I do this now? After the play-in games that the Big 12 is going to have, the ACC is going to have, the everybody's going to have. After the play-in games, the college playoff committee ranks them, and that 15, 16, 17, and 18, they can have a play-in game into the playoffs.
Yeah.
Or you can do, now this idea is really going down the drain, or you can do one representation of the Big Ten, SEC, ACC, Big 12, and have 2 games, and then you have your 15 and 16. Something like that. The idea was good in my head until I started talking about it. Then it went downhill. But anyways.
No, I like it. I've had a similar thought of having, playing games for the last few spots, with sort of the top finishers of the bubble team, so to say. I like that. I think that's a good idea, and it certainly gives a chance for people to prove it on the field. I think that's a good compromise. I know people will disagree, and that's fine. Everybody has a right to disagree.
Yeah.
But Greg, I will say that gopher hole was a good hole to dig down in.
Yeah.
So I think you're on to something. You're not on something, but you're on to something there, Greg.
The only thing, there's a big problem with that one though, is that those playing games that you're playing another extra game, and I don't know. Anyways, I appreciate the call, my man.
No problem. I'll let you get going. I'll get going. But a great show, everyone. Thanks for everyone's calls. Cheers.
You got it. Thank you, sir. Where are you going to find 4 Big Ten teams? Sometimes there's not 4 good enough Big Ten teams. Sometimes there is. 6 chance, 4 runner-ups.
Call from
Replica.
Replica is on the line. Mr. Longhorn. What do you got to say for yourself, sir? Let it rip.
There is so much going on in college football.
Yes, there is.
I think this week could have actually changed the direction of the sport. I hate AQs. This whole idea of AQs, I hate it. It's not what college football is meant to be about. It's not the sport that I grew up watching. I would much rather have a 5+11 model. And for all the people out there complaining, saying how it's not going to be fair, and how the SEC is going to rig it, try to stuff the bids. They're going to try to do that either way. Do people honestly think if we go to 4-4-2-2 that they're not going to try to get the rest of those at-large spots? Like that, they're going to try to do that either way. So that's not really a reason to destroy the sport. And I'm going to use this analogy, and I hope people actually take the time to think about what we're doing. We're talking about going to AQs and codifying inferior status for heritage programs in the sport, like Miami, like Florida State, like Clemson. I know the Big 12 doesn't have like blue blood brands, but they have programs who have shown the ability to compete at the top of college football. Maybe not every year, but they've shown the ability to do that. We're just going to codify these programs as inferior. Like, of course, these commissioners going to push back. You can't have the schools in your league being putting that label on them, because then that forces a mass scramble into the Big Ten and SEC, and there's not been many spots left. So while I'm sure the commissioners want it and the presidents and the ADs, they're worried about themselves. This is like adding a ninth conference game for the SEC is gonna get them $5 million for the athletic department. Like there's not that much money in the grand scheme of things, and it's not Kirby Smart's responsibility to fund the athletic department at the University of Georgia. It's not Sark's job to fund the swimming program and the tennis program at the University of Texas. That's the president's and AD's job. So for them to try to hijack the sport and turn it into WWE on grass because they want to keep their bonuses and their vacations and they don't want to have to make tough decisions, that's your fault. You should have resolved all these issues within the sport 10 years ago. You had the opportunity. You wouldn't be faced with these problems. So I don't like the AQs, and I don't. And I think there's a lot. Everything that's being leaked right now is a sign of where the sport is going. Now, if they come out to agree to the AQs, I'll come out and say I was wrong. But right now, this is looking like a failed alliance between the Big Ten and SEC. And I remember people telling me a year ago that these two commissioners were standing over the entire sport and everything's going to be kumbaya and it's world domination. And we clearly see that that's not the case, because if this was just a dog and pony show, the way people in previous calls make it out to be, you wouldn't be having this many missteps from the SEC, from a media perspective, from a messaging perspective. It would have been much more cleaner. But in the SEC, everybody's the boss. Everybody's the man. Everybody's running it. We've all got the big voice. We're the SEC. How dare anybody challenge us? That's the mentality. So, of course, you got coaches saying they don't want to play non-conference games. Why would they? Look at what they've achieved over the last 20 years playing 8. Why would they want to go to non-conference games? Why would they want to have a schedule agreement with the Big Ten and play those power brands in those leagues every year? And people are talking about it because of the money. The money's been there for decades for them to play these schedules. It's been there.
The only thing I would say to that is, what are the first of all, what are these crowns in the chat room? I don't know what's going on in the chat room. Why are these purple?
I think it's some kind of YouTube feature that they're rolling out. I'm noticing it for the first time as well.
I don't know what's going on. Is there like a chat room, like somebody's in? Okay, so Stormy Cyclone's in first place right now, and MBM's in second.
I think it tracks engagement, like who posts the most comments and stuff like that.
Okay. Anyways, I didn't know what was going on. There's one thing that has changed, Replica, is that the settlement agreement where there's a rev share going on and there's more money going, there's all this money going to the labor aspect. So even though the SEC is a really rich conference, they might need that extra money. They might need to go to 9 conference games. They might want those playing games. They want, they're according to Ross Dellinger, they're talking to Goldman Sachs right now. So
That's a whole other thing I plan on getting into in a moment. But my point is, it should not be contingent on automatic qualifiers. If you need the money, just go to non-conference games and live with the consequences. Again, they wanted Texas and Oklahoma in their league to boost the exposure, the media payouts, the prestige, all that comes with it. It shouldn't be tied to the playoff. It should be, if we're going off merit and we're trying to include everybody, including the G5, 5 best conference champions, and put the 11 at large, and come up with some kind of coefficient, some model where it's consistent year on year as what the criteria is of ranking. If you don't want a committee, don't go with a committee, but don't complain about a problem and not come up with a solution. Mm-hmm. That's why they're dealing with all these problems that they're having, because everybody wants to complain about the problem they created, and nobody wants to come up with solutions. Ohio State fans want to complain about kickoff times, but they'll gladly take the 9-figure paycheck. Like, it's,
yeah.
Like, we want to complain about stop. It's unnecessary, and again, it's going to damage the sport. I just read part of the Dellinger article that he posted about an hour ago. It's not just pushback from the Big 12 and ACC. It's pushback from people in the national media. It's pushback from ESPN. Like, it'll do great ratings for like 2 or 3 years, but if this is the direction it's going, this is not a good thing for the future of the sport. Like, do 5+11, work on solutions. You're not going to get everything you want, but again, if you're the SEC, you already have every advantage of basketball. Like,
but I do think, Replica, now, hold on a moment here. I do think, Replica, Mr. Longhorn, that if we do go to 5+11, which is what I want 5+7. But if we're going to 16, 5+11, cool. But if that happens, I got a feeling that the Big Ten is going to walk out of those advisory meetings with the SEC, because I really think that the Big Ten believed that they were in agreement on the 4-4-2-2-1-3. The SEC athletic directors in those meetings want a 4-4-2-2-1-3. So if this doesn't, if this goes pear-shaped for the Big Ten and what they want, I think they're going to say, okay, this advisory stuff really didn't work. It basically blinded us to what the SEC really wanted. I think that might happen. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, that's why I called it a failed alliance. And no, I said this a year ago as well. That advisory group was about securing the bag, about securing the playoff distribution, the money. But the SEC has never viewed anybody as equals, even the Big Ten. So I wouldn't be surprised if Sankey and them stabbed them in the back, especially if you're not consulting with your members, if you're not talking with your coaches, the actual labor, the people who have to go out and coach these games on what they will think is best, and you're just having conversation, wine and cheese amongst presidents and ADs, and you never really had any intention on being in accord with the Big Ten anyway. Because I just never saw that as a real alliance. I thought that was them strong-arming the rest of the sports so they could get most of the money and have control. But I don't think they ever wanted to be on par with equals, because they're too intimidated. They're too threatened at the idea of the Big Ten overtaking them. That's why they want to have as many SEC teams in there as they can. They don't want to give the Big Ten 4 off the bat and have them maybe get a 5th or a 6th, because that affects the balance of power. See, this is all self-preservation, and the people who with the most power are not negotiating in good faith. And that's where things like this can come about. When you're not negotiating in good faith and you're not trying to actually accomplish something, you're putting out the impression that you want this, but you really want that. That's how these things can happen, and that those meetings between the ACC and Big 12 schools, that got leaked for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's be honest, if there's this much pushback on going to non-conference games and the scheduling agreement and the playoff format, I don't think the SEC and the Big Ten, I mean, not the SEC, the Big Ten, the SEC wants Clemson and Florida State in there. Now, can influence get that over the line, but that's not what the coaches and stuff want. And if you got these brands sitting out here and they can see what's going on, they're going to take matters into their own hands. So you could see a Voltron conference, or what I'm calling it, the best of the rest, FSU, Clemson, Miami. At that point, Notre Dame would have to choose to be a part of that or to go to the Big Ten. But you could see a conference like that come about, and there are other schools to keep an eye on. We need to be looking at USC. There's a lot of complaining out of USC about travel, and it's really the style of teams they're having to play in the Big Ten. They don't want to play those rugged, physical teams. That they're appreciative to be in the Big Ten and have the opportunity, but I don't think if this is what it's going to be, if Notre Dame gave up their independence to join the conference with Clemson, Miami, FSU, Stanford, you don't think they wouldn't call USC? Mm-hmm. Like, nobody's talking about Texas A&M. They're not happy about Texas being in the SEC. They're going to be gone by 2030, whether that's the Big Ten or maybe a best of the rest. What happens with Nebraska? Do they get their academics together? Do they get kicked out 5 years down the road? What happens with them? Like, there's Tennessee. They're at odds about Deloitte.
Yeah. Well, their chancellor did say that they would sign on and stay within the rules. So.
Well, I just seen something earlier saying where their chancellor said they wouldn't sign the House settlement.
I'll go check on it.
I have to go find that article, but I definitely saw that. So there's just a lot going on, and
yeah, there is.
It's a mess. They need to figure it out. But I would rather have 5+11, and then come up with an honest, equitable way of ranking these teams, so we can stop complaining about committees and stuff that really we shouldn't be focusing on. There's a house settlement, rev share. There's too many things that need to get done to be complaining about stuff that they control.
All righty, man. Great call, Replica, Mr. Longhorn.
Have a good one.
Appreciate it, my man. Beautiful. Beautiful call. Replica has become a legendary caller in the PATC family. Replica, Mr. Longhorn. Nitwit, big news of the day. Oregon at Penn State, 7 p.m. NBC. We have a whiteout, folks. Nitwit, Nittly Lion. Big news of the day. Oregon, Penn State. That was announced. Whiteout. Stormy Cyclone, I want the mysterious crown. There is a crown on here. It doesn't show up on my screen, though, however. Thank you, Stormy Clowns. Thank you, Nitwit. Curtis Preston from Greensboro. Daniel Gorby, Larry Andrick, Bill G, Expedition Greg, for your generosity, helping us keep the lights on. I will say this. I'm agreement. I agree with Replica. I'm 5+11. But, and I've said this, there's advantages and disadvantages both ways. For the Big 12, the ACC, the Big 10, the SEC, more money here. I think we all understand the arguments, and but I will say this. Even though I'm for 5+11, there is one argument that really is a disadvantage to that system, and that is avoiding losses. Again, a 5+11 with the SEC playing 8 conference games and the Big Ten playing 9, why would USC play Notre Dame every year? They're not going to. You can see why Nebraska canceled with Tennessee. You can see this. I mean, why would USC, national conference, all that travel, playing up in the north, playing in the cold, but playing Notre Dame like a week before they have to play a Big Ten school, and Notre Dame can put USC a week before they play a Navy. So again, you have those situations. I mean, the ACC, they're not going to go to 8 to 9. They're probably not going to go to 8 to 9 conference games if it's 5 plus 11. That is a big argument against 5 plus 11. And you can see it happening. So, but I still want the 5 plus 11. Don't get hung up on the 8 versus 9. Well, but conferences do, John Boxleitner. This is a big part of their evaluation if they should go to 9 games. More money, but more losses. When you have 9 conference games, you are insuring yourself more losses than the conference. So it's part of it. And then non-conference games. When you have, if you do have auto bids, your non-conference games are really about the at-large bids. But if you lose them, if you play tough teams, if you lose them, you can still get your auto bid because of conference record. But if you have the auto bids, these tough non-conference games, they're going to leak. So I get the argument of the auto bids. My main concern about the auto bids is that they become too permanent. They become too codified. They won't be adjusted, those numbers, quick enough. And there you have it. College football scheduling is inherently unfair and unbalanced. It's been for 125 years. Yes. And when there's only so many data points, again, that is what Scott Strickland said, the Florida athletic director. He came out and said, I don't even know if a committee is even proper because this is not like basketball. There's so many different types of scheduling that is going on. And you only have so many games. So again, lots of back and forth, advantages, disadvantages, going both ways. Again, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe to the channel. Hit that subscribe button. Please hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications. So when we come on live, you'll be notified. We come live anytime during the day and night. Tonight we came on a little bit later than we usually do. Sometimes we come on at 9 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night Eastern time. Sometimes we do a breakfast show. We cover all the breaking news. So the only way you know when we're on is to make sure you have your notifications on, open to PATC. I appreciate you all coming on in May 29th. I appreciate all you guys coming in. Thank you so much for the phone calls. I thank the people who've donated to help us keep the lights on. And who is the crown winner tonight? I got no idea. It looks like it's MBM 357. Stormy Cyclone comes in second. MM 1012 MD comes in third. Mr. Oklahoma State Cowboy is the winner. Until next time, from all of us at PATC to all of you, please, you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.